David. When you spread last night, in the breath. Here, I got these. I had these cup salads. You know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Put what you want in. That's real. Perfect. We don't have any diet crap. Stuff.
Have a good one. Come on. Come on, Sadie. Come on, Sadie.
I won't say that I was fully cognizant of every project Dave had been involved with. I knew him as a first-line racing fabricator slash mechanic slash developer. Bob Aiken or Andile or Porsche, the factory, were using Dave for stuff as plenty good testimony for me that he could work on our stuff. And of course he could, it's child's play.
One day, he came in with a leather jacket on. Dave shows me this picture. He says, come here, let me show you. He says, that's me in the jacket. And he goes, that's Dan Gurney, that's Wally Dallenbach, that's Phil Remington. I can see right away that was pretty special. And you know, there's a picture of him being interviewed by Chris Economaki from ABC Wide World of Sports back in the 70s. And then, you know, next to that picture, there's one of Dave talking with Paul Newman. I knew then that this guy was special.
When we go to events, I see the lineage, you know, then he ended up learning from Phil Remington. It's almost like taking a 917 somewhere where, you know, he's a walking legend, even though he doesn't like to be named that. So the lineage, you know, that I'm learning from, it's like, doesn't get much purer and better than that in racing.
His experience is second to none. I mean, he can come up with things that just amaze me sometimes, the way he thinks, what a solution is for a problem. He's got probably 50 years of experience in this, working in IndyCar and working with Porsche directly. There's only probably a handful of people in the world that have those experiences.
He is the most humble person I've ever met in my entire life, because I'll tell him, I said, that is so awesome and fantastic what you're doing or what you've done, and he'll tell me, anyone can do it.
I first learned of Dave Klym back in the late 1970s. Whenever you heard the name Dave Klym, everybody said, oh, Fabcar, you knew who it was. Had posters of 935s and things that he built. And so Dave was the guy.
All right, Dave, you're looking that way. Pretty bitchin', man. Farm out, right arm. Oh, I know. There's one picture I want to get. I'll be right back. 1941. Me and my mother. 1942, so it's 82 years old. But look at the car. Suicide doors. I don't know what car that was, but that was me and my sister. It actually started when I was 13. Our high school had a real metal shop class and real drafting. The shop class had a machine shop and, you know, lathes and mills and stuff, so I learned a lot of basic stuff there. After high school, I went into the Air Force for 4 years. Went to tech school for aircraft and engine mechanic. I was stationed in Tripoli, Libya, North Africa, and I was a flight engineer on a seaplane, SA-16 Albatross seaplane, 58th Air Rescue Squadron. So I was there for 2.5 years. Went all over Africa, all over Europe. I learned discipline, you know, I think that's important. And to do a job right, because the crew, they depended on me having that aircraft ready to go all the time. Handsome dude, right? Yep. I went in 58 to 1962, so I was in for 4 years. When I came back, I was based in McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey in a maintenance control squadron. It was a huge hangar where they fixed all the airplanes. Anyway, cool. Neat duty for a kid.
Yeah, definitely.
My first car ever was when I came back from Africa. And I had an Austin Healey 104 and used it to race autocrosses and stuff like that on the Air Force base and the Army base. And then I went and got my regional and national license, SCCA license, with that car as a driver. Then I became friends with a guy named Mike Hiss. We talked about it. We moved to California to be closer to the racing activity out there. So that was in 1970. And I worked for a guy named Charlie Hayes, who was a Can-Am racer. And I was his shop foreman, ran his shop for him. He was a Lola dealer. Then I went to work for a guy named Pete Wilkins, fabricator from Sydney, Australia. Now, Pete Wilkins built our Formula One Eagle. So I learned so much from him. Then I went to work for Dan Gurney, working under Phil Remington, who is world famous fabricator. And I was hired as a fabricator and a mechanic. We built several cars, and one of the cars we raced at Riverside with James Hunt driving. Phil Remington brought new skill levels to me that I'd never experienced before. Gas welding aluminum, hammer forming, and things like that. In 1973, I was a chief mechanic for Wally Dallenbach Sr. While I worked for Dan Gurney, and this was the qualifying picture at Indianapolis. And that's me, that's Dan Gurney, Bobby Unser. That was a Phil Remington award that I won. Yeah, that was one he actually made out of a file, so I was kind of honored to have that. 72, Mike Hiss and I formed a IndyCar team. We raced a 1968 Eagle. We ran the whole season. We ran Indy, I think we finished 7th, which wasn't bad for two rookies. You know, he was a rookie and I was. But I was what they call chief mechanic, and back then a chief mechanic was like a team manager, but we did everything. And we had knockoff wheels to change the wheels. I mean, we didn't use air guns or anything like that, but I think that was pretty good finishing 7th. I think in the end of the year we finished 7th or 8th, which wasn't too bad. Late in 1977, I started a company called Fabcar Engineering, primarily to provide machining and fabrication services to racing teams. Because having run cars, I knew that people needed something like that. I got a contract right away to build Super V cars. This is the Super V, a Wheeler Super V, Gary Wheeler. And he actually rented space for me in my building and designed a car, and we built, I think, 11 of these cars. They had the water-cooled Volkswagen engine in them. You don't see them much anymore. I think there's one still racing in vintage. And then I got a contract to build some Indy cars for a guy named Lindsey Hopkins out of Atlanta. And these were one of the first ground effect Indy cars. Talked about the Indy car. This is the Indy car that David Bruns designed, the first ground effects. That's us testing at Ontario Motor Speedway before they closed it. But isn't that a beautiful car? Yep. Had pushrod front suspension, which was unheard of at that time. Like I say, it was ground effects. And we were just learning a lot about ground effects and not realizing the car would suck down and then would jump up like this. It would suck down and jump up. We didn't realize you had to put heavier springs in. We kept ending up putting heavier springs in it to make the car work. I told you we won a pit stop contest in '77. Mm-hmm. That's our car. That's me. And that was the last year that
Where's you?
Floyd won. That's me right there. There was a picture of me actually jumping over the wall with a wheel gun. But now it's a big deal. It was sponsored by Miller Beer. And we got a bunch of beer. Here's another picture of it. There I am running around with a tire. We weren't supposed to win because we were the B team. I think we were racing against, Andretti at the time. So they made us do it again because they thought we were cheating the first time. We beat the time the second time, even better, so.
They knew you weren't messing around.
No. Fabcar turned out to be quite successful. After we did the Indy cars, I moved the whole factory to Atlanta to be closer to sports car racing. First I started converting streetcar 911s into race cars, and then I started designing and building tube frame 911s. one of which won the 12 Hours of Sebring. We did the first ever mid-engine 911 Porsche. It was a tube frame car. The only Porsche parts were the engine and the taillights. I had Lee Dykstra design the car. And we tested the car at Daytona, the first one, and Paul Newman drove it. That's him in the car. And John Paul Jr. drove it. This is at Daytona. The car was very competitive. We won the 6 hours of Watkins Glen with the car, with a 3.2 liter engine, where everybody else had 3.4s and 3.8s. So, and then after that, the car was outlawed. I did some 935 stuff. I did the Bob Aiken Coca-Cola 935 from scratch. It was all tube frame. Very fast car. It was the fastest 935 at the time. And then I was asked to build a car for JLP Racing. It was called JLP4, and it was a tube frame, purpose-built 935, ground effects that was designed by Lee Dykstra.
I think it's Rolf Stommelen driving that Porsche at the moment, but still the two leaders there, Fitzpatrick and Hurley Haywood, right behind him. They're locked in battle. Turbo flames are coming out of the back of those cars. Third and fourth.
At one point, I started repairing 962 Porsches. This is typical of a 962 Porsche race car chassis that's been wrecked. Part of the requirement for repairing these cars for Porsche was that I had to maintain some part of the original chassis to maintain the serial number. So you can see these are parts that I was able to retain. Once we put the panels together and pre-drill them, then we had to take everything apart, deburr all the holes, put epoxy tape on all the joints, and then rivet it together. And it was all riveted together in the fixture, so when it was out of the fixture, it was perfectly square. It took approximately 700 man-hours to build one chassis. The Porsche factory recognized the quality of the work that we did, and they contracted me to actually build the chassis, monocoques, for the factory. So I would build them here. They put them on an airplane, fly them to Germany, and make race cars out of them. The engines at first turned out to be hand grenades, and then Andal started building them. They were pretty good after that. And then I was approached by NASCAR to design and build a sports car. They were later designated Daytona Prototypes. In the first year, we won 5 races with those cars. Our first test was at Daytona, and Jim Francis' son was driving it. That was quite an experience, saying, okay, I just built this car, and the owner of NASCAR's son is driving this thing down Daytona at 200 miles an hour. I hope nothing breaks. Daytona Prototype, Fabcar, chassis manufacturer,
Awesome.
2003.
Very cool.
And powered by Porsche, and it's all about cars that use Porsche engines but are not from Porsche. And you can see that all those are articles about cars that I've done. You can see all the tabs. Here's my Daytona Prototype. But after that, racing turned into a spec racing deal. You had to race a car from the factory. You could not alter anything. It used to be like in Indy back then, help people make an Indy car in their backyard and run it. You can't do that anymore. So you can't innovate like we used to be able to do. It says fabricator, no, chassis builder per excellence. Right. But anyway, we used to do a lot of work for the Revs Institute and CH Motor Cars, you know, as Fabcar. They sent the 917 PA up to us. We fixed that. It was wrecked during either testing or a race, I'm not sure what. But the front part of the tube frame chassis was damaged. So they brought the car to Indianapolis to my company, Fabcar, and we repaired the car. I had to replace bent tubes and try to make the welds look like factory welds, and I think we were successful in doing that. And Tim and I made they put the exhaust coming out the side, and we made those panels that you see on the side, make them look like the factory. We just had photographs from the factory, and that's how we fabricated these panels. It's the first time I came to Naples and met Mr. Collier at that time. And when Carol and I moved down here 10 years ago, they offered me a job. We've been there ever since. But we'll be able to somehow make
His work is beautiful. His definition of beauty is if it goes across the finish line first. And that means his focus is on pure functionality. I think Dave just wants that part to be harmonious with the rest of the machine or with the rest of whatever it is that he's designing. And the net result is the functionality gives the material its beauty.
Just look at it. Isn't that beautiful?
That is spectacularly nice. Yeah. I mean,
You gotta take that up in your office and put it up on your wall.
I'd do that in a second. Get me another copy and I'll put it up.
When we came up with the concept on RazoFab and the model, Dave had to make sure that what he has currently for the chassis was functional for what we did aesthetically. Mr. Collier has an opinion on that as well, about what he wanted to see the exterior of the car look like. All the inner workings of the car, the chassis, all that is Dave.
And then it's got a fold up so we can put a seal in it.
There's no instructions here. And he spent a year, before I even met him, doing all the design work and doing all the fit up and laying out everything, in the overall chassis of the car. You can truly find out how special he was because he'd be sketching something on a notepad, that may be 10 o'clock in the morning, and then, I would see him like at lunchtime or right after lunchtime, and he took what he sketched on that notepad and he made a CAD file out of it. Probably later in the day or the next day, he's machining it. That's a special guy because normally you would say, okay, well, this guy's going to sketch it, then maybe a drafter is going to do all the dimensioning, and then a machinist is going to machine it. To watch him just sketch something and then he goes and makes a part and it works, which is the most important part of all, and it's better than probably what the original was.
We originally used a shift linkage out of a WRX to do our initial testing. It was adequate, it really worked quite well. I had to modify it extensively because the gearbox was going the wrong way, but there was nothing really wrong with the shifter, but we wanted to make a cleaner look, so I eliminated the reverse lockout that you can see it right here. And I made it so the shifter is spring-loaded like a Porsche or a BMW to get into reverse. I also shortened the stroke to make it just a little bit more precise. You can, this is pretty good, but I think you'll find that RazoFab will be a lot shorter, a lot tighter. This has a ball joint, actually a physical ball that everything rotates around, and I used a little baby universal joint to do the same thing. Here again to try to tighten everything up. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with this. It worked fine. And it probably worked for 100,000 miles, but it just wasn't what we wanted in our new car.
Dave is a very, very talented and meticulous guy. In our world of historical automobiles, what gives Dave the edge is that he is an expert with solid edge computer-aided design software, and everything he makes has a CAD file with it so that you can put that in your file and you have a reference document for exactly what he did. You can replicate it because you now have a blueprint. And that is, you know, a talent and a value beyond jewels.
I'd always been extremely passionate about cars, but I had never seen the tools that were used to build these cars. So it was really intimidating. You know, I'd never used a bandsaw, I'd never used a finger brake. At school, you only get 6 weeks, so you learn just the basics way of using a tool. And then once I really walked in here and started working with Dave, I mean, he was like an octopus, just mounting this, doing that, fabricating this. It went from just being on theory to actually magic happening.
Dave's talents in the Porsche world, especially going back to being an official repair supplier for Porsche and then later building 962 tubs, and that speaks a lot when Porsche says, "Dave, you're our man." Anybody that ran a Porsche in those days, from an RSR going clear up through IMSA cars, all the various 935 series of cars, and then into the 962 prototypes, and later into even sort of the GT1 era, all would say Dave is the man. I mean, he worked with Kevin Jeanette and Gunner Racing, Bob Aiken and building his 935, Alwyn Springer of Andile. When you talk to some of these great guys, they all have great fond memories of Dave. And to meet Dave and to hear of some of the people that he worked with back in his earliest days, I've been just really, really fortunate. Dave mentions Phil Remington from time to time. I knew Phil Remington as well, and I would chat with Phil about Dave and Dave about Phil, and a great network of really amazing talent came out of that California area back in that time in the 60s, 70s.
I'm really glad I was able to do what I did, you know?
Yep. So you asked me before why we're doing this. This is why we're doing it.
Oh, okay. That's all the states that I went to and the countries I rode in.
Dave had a BMW GS, and I'd hop on the back of it. And we'd travel out west to the races on the motorcycle, hit all the national parks and everything. Had a fun time, exciting times, exciting races. No, had a good time. We're still having a good time.
We're home.
Hello.
We're home.
Come on in. I'll play one of Dave's favorites. He likes Walking on Air. I love that one. Is that the one you like?
I think so.
Couldn't say more about Dave, what a great person he is, and what it's been really like to have him here. I'm honored that we've been able to have Dave here for so many years now and have him be a part of the team and be able to work with so many other people we have in the back and be able to share some of his talent.
Dave, I know you're going to see this. You're a great person, you're a great family man, and I'm just happy that I've had the chance to work with you and learn under your guidance. Thank you.
Mr. Klym, I mean, I couldn't be more than thankful with how kind you are, your wife, and then the patience that you've had with me, being able to teach me everything. And I look forward to working with you many more years and keep learning from you. I'm excited to see what RazzleFab ends up looking like, and I couldn't thank you enough for all the knowledge that you've taught me.
Dave, I just wanted to say, I'm so glad that we were able to meet here at Revs, even though we worked in the same city for many, many years and didn't know each other. Your accomplishments in your life work is fantastic. I'm happy to call you a friend.
He's here working 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, and going strong, and obviously a great engineer and mechanic besides fabricator and designer. His legacy will long live beyond with all the great cars he helped save and build.
Hi, Dave. A person here, or a man from the Revs Institute, asked me to say a couple of words about you. And I can tell you, I have met a lot of fabricators, and I have met a lot of people who work with metals and everything else, and fabricating and building things. Dave, you are definitely the best what I have met, and the ability what you could do is amazing. And on top of it, you are a nice person, and I call you my friend. And I hope that is okay with you. And on the other hand, advice and the thing, get that car finished, okay? I would like to see it. Good luck.